40 meters below the edge of Monterey Canyon, I want you to picture a crevice in the rock, deep enough that the sun can't reach it. The water is a deep, dark blue-black cold enough to slow your heartbeat. And in that crevice, trapped between two rocks covered in sponges and sediment, is a mother. She has been there for 104 days. She hasn't eaten a single meal. Just thinking about it for a moment sends a chill down my spine. 104 days, no food, no light, no rest. She is a giant Pacific octopus, preparing to say goodbye to life, and she never moves from that spot, not even for a second. Because behind her, hidden in that crevice, hang 50,000 eggs, like pearls. Even if they could watch her from inside their shells, she would never see them. This is her story. A tale so profound, it has left marine biologists who've witnessed countless struggles across species utterly speechless. Prepare to understand why. To understand how this sacrifice began, let's rewind the film a bit. Before she became a mother waiting to bid farewell to life while guarding her eggs, she was one of the ocean's most incredible hunters, a solitary, dangerous, and swift predator. For most of her short, 3 to 5 year life, the giant Pacific octopus hunted alone among the rocky reefs of California and Oregon. Completely alone. Octopuses are solitary by nature. No nurturing parents to guide them, no mates by their side. From the moment she hatched, she battled life entirely alone, just as her own mother had sacrificed everything for her existence. She hunted crabs with arms that held 2/3 of her neurons. Much like a blind woman, she would feel her way along the ocean floor using her suction cups, identifying her surroundings through touch, and easily tracking prey by tasting the chemical traces in the water. To escape predators, she didn't just hide. She could change her skin to resemble coral or rock, by flattening her body to an almost unbelievable degree, squeeze through narrow crevices. All of this speaks to the fact that octopuses are no ordinary animals. They are the silent geniuses of the ocean. They open lids and solve mazes. We discussed this in our previous video. Octopuses that leave their tanks to visit neighboring ones. How curious they are, how much they learn, and how well they adapt. I want you to remember this. They are equipped to pass every test the ocean throws at them. Well, almost every test. Try to put yourself in her shoes for a moment. If, somewhere deep within your body, a final action were programmed, and once you started, there was no turning back, how would you feel? The moment when everything changes begins right here, mating. A meeting that is brief, deliberate, and final. It's the same for male octopuses. Mating is the last thing they do before dying. This was her turning point, a single moment that rewrote every rule she had lived by. But there was one more very important thing she had to do: find a shelter. She ruled out areas exposed to strong currents, zones frequented by predators, and places that were too shallow. Finally, she chose a spot where she could both take shelter and get oxygen. The environment was so ideal. It seemed as if her entire journey had led her right here. It took her about 10 days to weave her eggs into delicate wreaths. She had to work meticulously, because to scavenger fish, these eggs were a feast. She cleaned and inspected each one, ensuring that water circulated perfectly around them. That is how she secured the safety of tens of thousands of eggs, more lives than any mother could care for in a single lifetime. The part that astonished me the most when I first heard it, the moment ovulation was complete, she stopped eating. Not gradually, all at once. Her body's last fortress had become a temple, and she would never again cross back over its threshold. Scientists now know why. There is a small gland behind her eyes called the optic gland. According to oceanographers, this is the octopus's master switch, a biological key that, once turned, whispers a single instruction through her entire body. Only the eggs matter now. From the moment she became a mother, her hormones changed. Now, the only thing that matters is the eggs. Everything else takes a back seat. I want you to really think about this. It's not a choice. She isn't weighing the pros and cons. Once this biological switch is flipped, there is no turning back. And if she could have chosen, if some flicker of instinct had offered her a way out, would she have taken it? There is no answer. Only the quiet, terrible fact that the question never gets asked of her at all. If you think it's starvation that's killing her, you're mistaken. Her real enemy is her own biology. Researchers at the University of Chicago noted that the optic gland isn't just related to starvation. It completely reorganizes her entire physiology and shuts down her digestion. The self-destruction process kicks in. When the incubation period begins, dozens of genes open and close in sequence. Like a countdown clock embedded in her cells, it's a planned chain reaction shut down. Her own biology had turned against her, becoming the one enemy she could never outmaneuver. Her skin, once a master of camouflage, now loses its luster, growing translucent. Her formidable arms, once capable of prying open oysters or outsmarting eels, grow tragically frail. As her strength dwindles, she begins to neglect herself, her own body's care no longer a concern. It's also known that some mothers experience skin deterioration, a phenomenon researchers attribute to the breakdown of their regulatory systems. While this may seem like a reaction to pain, researchers attribute it to the breakdown of their regulatory systems. But the one constant amid all this decay is the eggs. She never abandons them. Ask yourself, if given the chance to easily escape a situation that demands such a heavy price, how many of us would still choose to stay? 100 days in the dark. Every few seconds, she drew water into her mantle and sprayed it over her eggs. Again and again a slow, relentless countdown. Each repetition a day closer to the cave that had once been her shelter and was now, unmistakably, becoming her tomb. This met her eggs' oxygen needs. She cleaned away algae and bacteria, gently using the tips of her arms. Over and over again. If a rockfish strayed even slightly beyond the boundary, she stood her ground. When a starfish crawled toward her nest, she shooed it away. If a small shark approached, she stepped in front of it. And she did all this by using every last drop of her strength, even though she was protecting a future she would never see. Off the coast of California, during an expedition in 2014, a research team tracked a wild deep-sea octopus mother for a full 4.5 years. It stands as the longest incubation period ever recorded in the animal kingdom, an astonishing 4.5 years. Through all that time, she never once left her nest. Never ate a single thing. Every ounce of her being was devoted to her young. A feat extraordinary even for her species, yet one she could not survive. There's something deeply familiar about this story. It reflects a piece of ourselves. Perhaps a mother who, even after coming home exhausted from work, tends to her feverish baby all night long. A father who works for years for his family. Or anyone who has spent a large part of their life devoting themselves to others. Have you ever known someone like that? Maybe you were someone like that yourself. Months earlier, tiny embryos had begun to form inside eggs slightly larger than a grain of rice. According to scientific studies, these developing miniature octopuses could perceive light and shadow even before hatching. But at that very moment, the story was drawing to a close for their mother. Her eyes, which had once detected the slightest movement, had now grown dull. Though there was no strength left in her arms, she still continued to wrap herself around her nest. I want to mention a detail that deeply moved even the most objective biologists. Some mother octopuses touched their eggs again and again during their final days. Gently, slowly. This touch was identical to the one they used toward objects they found safe. Was this merely a reflex? Or could it be the final signals of a nervous system breaking down? Who can say whether a mother nearing the end of her life harbors something akin to compassion? The next part of the story is even more astonishing. Just as the life within the eggs was about to mingle with the deep waters, the life watching over them was slowly fading away. The first crack, the first movement. Finally, the eggs began to hatch. Then thousands more. Thousands of hatchlings, nearly invisible due to their transparency, began to leave their sheltered nest. Like a cluster of clouds, they were swept up by the current and drifted upward from darkness to light, from the safety of their nest into the unknown. 1,000 small, flickering victories, born from a single, unseen sacrifice. They spend their first weeks drifting among the plankton in the vast ocean stretching out before them. This leaves them defenseless against every possible threat. According to scientists, their survival rate is less than 1%. Of the babies hatching from the nest, perhaps dozens or perhaps far fewer will ever grow into adults. But I don't think the numbers matter all that much. What's important isn't how many survive, but what their mothers are willing to risk to ensure they have a chance. Usually, by the time they hatch, the mothers are long gone. Some, however, hang on just long enough to watch the nest empty. Observations from a 2-11 expedition captured exactly this moment. The mother octopus remained motionless just a few hours after watching the final cloud of young departers, if with the quiet pride of having fulfilled the duty that kept her going. Perhaps this is the most poignant part of the story, a return that was never physical, but entirely of the spirit, the last, quiet closing of a circle. She spent the final days of her brief life protecting young she would never get to know. If you want to see the biological equivalent of unconditional love, you won't find a clearer definition than this. Without expecting anything in return, without being rewarded, a complete, unwavering sacrifice. So, if this is killing her, why hasn't evolution changed it? Why hasn't nature developed a different way to protect the mother's life? The answer is simple: it works. Imagine if the mother octopus left her nest to find food. Predators would find the eggs within minutes. Her death was never a failure. It was the price written into evolution's own quiet, unsentimental math, and, in its own way, thousands of new lives were its answer. As deeply moving as this story may be, nature's strategy cannot be measured by human emotions. When we consider humanity's impact on the planet, we can better appreciate nature's inherent balance. This profound biological imperative, while appearing tragic to us, is fundamental to the system's success. While we listen to this story from a warm, dry place, we silently grieve for a creature struggling alone in the darkness of the ocean's depths. What nature offers is a story necessary for us to understand them better. Perhaps our next video will be about the unique personality traits they exhibit. I'm certain it will help you get to know them even better. So, what happened to what remained of the mother octopus? She quietly returned to nature. There is no family member to mourn her. There is no ceremony held in her honor. Her remains will be broken down by scavengers and bacteria within a few days. Nothing goes to waste in the ocean, but what she truly left behind are her tiny offspring, scattered across the sea. Perhaps this is the meaning that will linger in our minds the longest. It's not about hunger. It's not just a self-destruct mechanism. It's the fact that she doesn't need to be admired for any of it. Perhaps this is the harshest thing that sets her apart from us. She simply did what she had to do silently, completely, until she had nothing left to give. So, for a tomorrow you'll never witness, a future you'll only enable, what profound sacrifice would you quietly make?